tune on my buddy Rick's car or something. Say hi.
So, hey.
Y'all watch the channel, you've seen it before. It's got King Kong on the side of it. LS1. What cam is that? What cam was in it again?
Stage 3.
Stage 3 Texas.
BTR.
BTR. Stage 3 BTR cam. Alright, so the reason we were tuning on Rick's car is because he put a LS6 intake on it, and it was reading dangerously lean, like 13.6, 13.8. So I added about 10% fuel to the tables. We'll see what that does. But his fastest time is 12.75, I think. Let's see if it goes faster with the extra fuel. I'm scanning it this time. Timing was really conservative, so I turned the timing up, and anytime you add timing, it adds power. It's going to lean it out a little, so I added a little bit more fuel. Let's see if it made it any faster. Let's see what the timing was set at 25. I put it at 28
tonight.
So let's see.
And this is going to be his victory lap, if you want to call it that. The Camaro on the line. Rick Bullock, your King's Hammer winner tonight. Going down to the quarter-mile margin. Going to stop the timers at 12.70 at 107 miles per hour.
Didn't make a difference.
All right, so I want to get into some things. We did add some fuel to it. We had some timing. It was really conservative on the timing. I think it was 23 degrees. It was 25 in the tune. No, wait, it was 23 in the tune. Actually, we'll look at that in a minute. But something I want to go over here real quick is when you do this type of stuff, tuning on a car, especially if you're tuning on it on different days, especially on motor cars, because where the DA makes a big difference on motor cars, DA out your times, because if you try to tune on a car one day and it's a nice cool day, the DA is low, it's going to run faster. And then if you come back on a high DA day and you do some tuning on it and it runs slower, you're going to think, oh, that tuning's not helping because it went slower. No, that tuning probably did help. It just went slower because the air was crappier. So what I do is go to dragtimes.com /DA density altitude calculator.php, which I'll put the link to this in the description. But now this one, go through the ads here. This one will let you select a track. We was at Kentucky Dragway, which used to be called Bluegrass. No, it wasn't Bluegrass. It was Mountain Parkway. It was Mountain Parkway Dragway. They just never updated the name in here. Pick that name right there. It shows right there. And then you pick the date that he ran on, which was Friday the 7th. This was. So we get the weather data. Now, sometimes it'll generate weather data in here for the whole day. And sometimes it won't. And you get all kinds of ads there. I'm trying to close them. But this one didn't generate the information. But if it does, you'll see it in a big box right here. But what I usually do, I go to this one because to get the DA, because this one works. It seems to show better anyway. It seems to be more accurate. So airdensityonline.com. So you go there. Click on U.S. tracks. Then you go down and you find your track. So we're going to go to Kentucky. almost there. There we go. And Kentucky Dragway. They got the name correct in this one. So see, it's updated. This DA calculator's very accurate, but it doesn't seem to be updated for the tracks very often, or this data doesn't seem to be updated that often very much anymore either, but it works good. I mean, it's dead on. It's been dead on for me in the past. Because on a hot summer day here at Kentucky Dragway, the DA can get as high as 4,000. And then in the spring and fall, the DA can get, I've seen it as low as a negative 1,000. So a hot summer day, 4,000. Did I accidentally say something different before? Anyway, it on a hot summer day, July, August, it can get up to 4,000. And then on a spring, fall, cool day, it can get as low as negative 1,000. But anyway, here we are. It brings this up. Now this brings up the information for the day that you're on. If you want to see past days, go to historical and put the date in here. And this was Friday, June the 7th. And then hit submit. And then boom. So what he ran that one pass about 9 o'clock. And what it run? A 1272 at 107. So we go down here and we put the density altitude in 1686. Oh, whoops. Put a dot in there like I was putting ET in. And 1272 at 107. And you're looking at this top one for something like this. Just this car's pretty much just cam only. So there we go. The fastest this car ever ran with the LS1 intake was a 1250 something, from what I understand. So the car did pick up a little. His car ran 1250 when the DA was really low. I don't know if it was 0 that day or not, but it was really close if it wasn't. But D8 out, it ran a 12.479. All right. And then later, when we added some timing, it was like 9:30, I believe. But I remember what the DA was because I DA'd it out when I was at the track. It was 16:16, I believe. And that's when he ran the 12.7. It was 107.9 something. It did gain a mile per hour when we added the timing, but it didn't respond as good as I think it should have, and we'll figure out why it did that here in a minute. But anyway, so 12.471 when we added the timing, it didn't respond like it should have, adding that time. And most of these LS motors, they seem to like around 28 degrees of timing on motor fuel injection from what I've seen. But let's go figure out why it wasn't responding Friday night. So here's a scan of that race. I got a mathematical formula for it to do the wideband, but he didn't have the wire hooked up to the computer. If you want to know how to hook the wire up to the computer to make the wideband be able to read through the scanner, I have a video on that, and I'll post that in the description as well if you want to go back and look at that. Christopher puts one in his WS6, 2000, I believe, something like that. But and he goes over how to install the wideband into the car and make it read through the scanner. And it's very beneficial when you do that. It just makes tuning a lot more easier. Rick hadn't done that on his car, so he was having to look at the wideband as he was going down the track and telling me. So I was making adjustments for that. But anyway, he don't have that hooked up yet. He's getting it hooked up now. But anyway, here's that pass, or one of the last passes. Look at the intake air temperatures. They're through the roof. I mean, these are intake air temperatures that my car don't even see on turbo. I mean, these are ridiculously high. And the reason for that was he had this ram air intake, and he had the cowl hood. So the ram air intake, uses the ram air hood, so the air comes in, it hits right on the filter there. Well, with that cowl hood, it was just the front of the cowl of the hood was just boxing the filter completely in. I'm surprised it was even getting air. But that's why the intake air temperatures were through the roof. So he switched to this SLP intake that actually has a scoop that goes in front of the radiator, down, and below the front of the car, and gets all that cold air. This is a really cool setup. I like it, and it works really good with the cowl hood. That ram air intake, cowl hood, equals bad idea. Ram air intake plus cowl hood equals bad idea. So this is after the SLP lid with the SSRA mega mouth intake that comes up under the front of the car there. So the DA on that one was if I remember correctly, it was 1650. He ran a 1248. I forgot what the mile per hour was, but pretend that ain't there because I forgot what the mile per hour was. So it DA'd out at 12.25, which was a gain of 0.2, if I remember correctly. All right, so let's go back to the where the intake air temperature sensor was way too high. So you'll see right here is where he's at wide open throttle. You'll see it was only getting about 22 degrees of timing, even though the timing tables had more than that in them. And you go to timing tables here, you go spark, high octane. I actually make both these tables the same. I am no expert tuner, I'm going to tell you all that right now, but I mean, I tuned my car, I tuned on a few other people's cars, and I seem to get them to work good. Tuned on Christopher's car, etc. And there's a lot more to this, but really what we're doing is we're just doing wide open throttle tuning. But anyway, this is where we added 10% fuel. And the first time I upped the timing, it didn't respond. Since it didn't respond, I put the timing back. But I don't know if this is that log or not. Maybe it probably ain't, because see this cylinder air mass. I'm getting off topic here, but I wanted to show y'all something here real quick. Well, I already had that open. No, this is the good one. This was after the SLP lid and that ram air thing that went under the car. But yeah, see the timing was set to 23 on this one, and and it went to 23, whereas the other log where the IAT temperatures were real high, it only went to 22. And see, it was only in these cells because it wasn't getting that much flow. See, now that it's getting better flow, it's in these cells. But the reason it did that was because in the tune, you got this intake air temperature base corrections. This is the temperature. This is the manifold absolute pressure. This is normally where you would be at wide open throttle, generally. So when he starts hitting 104 degrees, it's pulling timing. It pulls 1 degree. And then at 140, 149, it's pulling 2 or 3 degrees. So that's why it was doing that. But as you see with the SLP lid fixed, it corrected that, and it actually showed the timing and those tables for what the tune was. So now let's talk about how we added fuel. So typically what I usually do is I make this which he didn't have it hooked up, so there ain't no data in there. But he's on speed density, which doesn't use the mass airflow sensor. So that is what you'd use for this. So he was just looking at the air fuel gauges as it was going down the track, and then I would add fuel based on what he would tell me. So, and you add fuel for speed density in this main VE table under airflow general, you know, right here. This ain't the newest tune. I smoothed his out. But anyway, this one goes off manifold absolute pressure, and it goes off engine speed. Let me open up the right tune. One moment. All right, this is the one where I smooth the tables out. But anyway, so what I would come in here and do, now generally I'd like to see the wideband in here, but I could see what cells it was hitting through here. So it was hitting as normal on a motor car in the 90s to the 100 cells. So what I did to add 10% fuel, I just came in here, highlighted those cells, and then anything times 1 is itself. So if you multiply these tables by 1, you know, they wouldn't change. See? So 10% would be 1.1, adding 10%. Now if you wanted to take away 10%, you do 0.9. You hit this multiply button. See, if I hit this multiply button, it's going to lower these blue numbers I've got highlighted 10%. See, just like that. Now, if I put 1.1 in here, hit the multiply button. This is called scaling. Scaling it. Hit the multiply button. It'll raise them 10%. But yeah, if you wanted to do 20%, if you wanted to take out 20%, and use the multiply button. That's the way I usually do it. But anyway, we raised it 10%. Actually, I think at this point we had it at 15%. So what I did before, when it was running the 12.7 or whatever it was running, and the IET temperatures were going too high, I added timing, but the car didn't speed up, so I put the timing back where he had it, whoever was tuning on it before. But so now that we have the intake air temperatures fixed, I added, actually, I think I added 10 degrees or 10% or 5%. We was already at 10%, so I came in here and I added 5%. And this problem, I did it in the secondary table too, 90 to 100. I did the same thing. But what I did was, oh, I forgot to mention this. So we upped these at this point 15%, and then what I did was I basically highlighted these and hit this interpolate vertical to blend those in, and then I highlighted the whole table and used this smooth selection to smooth it all out. That's what I do. I don't know if that's the right way or not, but I did it on the secondary table as well. And I'll go over the mass airflow, how to do that one as well. You pretty much do it the same way. But anyway, we added that, and then we added some timing. Here's your timing tables: spark, advance, high octane, low octane. And again, basically all I did was go in here. You'll see that on the spark tables, he was hitting these cells at wide open throttle. Ta-da, through there. So I came in here. What was that, 76 to 88? 76 to 88. Well, we're just going to say 76. And it was started at 2400 RPM. So 2400 RPM, 76, be right there. So I basically grabbed all those tables and I wanted to raise it. It was at 23. At this point, I only raised it 3 degrees. So I hit, put 3 up here, and then I hit the plus button, added 3 degrees. And then I kind of grabbed these and kind of smoothed that in with the interpolate vertical. And then I kind of grab these, and then interpolate horizontal and kind of smooth those in. And that's how I added the timing, based on, you know, the cylinder air mass it hit and the RPM it was at. And then, yeah, and then I usually just take this table. If you click right here, it'll highlight the whole table, and you click copy. You can go to this one, click paste, and I usually make both those the same. We're not going to save that because I'd already added the timing before. I was just wanting to show you how I added the timing. But now if you wanted to add fuel and you were on mass airflow, see, he don't have his mass airflow hooked up. What you would do is you would need to make a table in here for mass airflow. Alright, to make the table for the mass airflow, what you're going to do is you're going to come in here. The first thing you have to do, and by the way, I did change the scan and the tune I had pulled up. This is the last run at the 26 degrees. You'll see it was actually going to 26 degrees. And I changed the tune for the for where we added 3 degrees, and it was showing 26 degrees. So see there, those are the tables that it would have hit. What, 88, 84 to 92 right in here, 84 to 88, and right there, 26, 27 degrees, which is where it should have been for the, with the new lid. Look, 77 intake air temperatures towards the end of the run. But anyway, to make the mass airflow one, we're gonna, the first thing you have to do is you have to go in here, you have to hook the HB tuners to the car, and this little gear icon will turn green. When it turns green, you click on it, and it'll bring this table up, and I'll show you that table in a minute because it's going to bring that same table up when we go to add it to the graph. But you type in mass airflow, which if it's already in here, you don't have to do it, but to use anything over here in the gauges, the chart, the graph, it has to be in here first. So you have to add it here first. It's already in here, but if it ain't in here, hook your HB tuners up to your car. This icon turns green. This gear icon, you click on it, type in mass airflow, it'll bring it up, and I'll show you that here. But anyway, what you do is you right click in here and go to graphs layout. And then let's go ahead and delete this one. So we'll pretend that's not there no more. So you'll click the add button, add table, new table. What do you want to name it? Let's name it mass airflow. Now we want to see, you can do this different ways. I mean, you can view what the O2 sensors are doing, but he's got a wideband hooked up. He just ain't had it, he don't have it hooked to the computer. If he had it hooked to the computer, he's doing that now. It's Sunday, so I don't know if he worked on it over the weekend or not, but he's said he's going to do that for the next race so I can see it in the tune, which will make it easier for me to set the fueling. But anyway, you go in here, and this is the table it would bring up as if you was adding it over here as well, like I said before. And you just type in, you can type out mass airflow, but if you do it, it pulls it up. Actually, I messed up. This one is going to be, this top one is what we want to see in the table. So, and again, I've already got this in here, the wideband O2 sensor, and I go over that in the other video I'm going to put in the description of how to set up your user defined math for your wideband sensor. So we add that, and I think it goes by percent. We'll fix that if we need to. But anyway, this one needs to say mass airflow sensor because that's how we want to view it. Mass airflow sensor frequency. Yes, sounds good. Now we need to make sure that it says hertz because this is the table you're going to use for adding fuel, airflow, general mass airflow calibration. this is the table we're going to use for that, and see it says hertz. So we need this top column. So to get the top column, we right click in this little box right here, and then column axis, copy labels. Alright, then we go back over here. This is the column axis, and we copy the labels. There we go. Actually, we need to name that math. Alright. Now, if he had the wideband hooked up to the computer, I'd be able to see AFR readings through here. So, say it was on motor. Most cars I've ever messed with, on motor, they usually like 12.5 to 13.1 AFR at wide open throttle. So if at wide open throttle, these cells said, 13.7, we need to add fuel to drop that AFR down to 12.5 to 13.1. Normally, I put them at 12.8, and then I add fuel and take away fuel and see if the car picks up at the track. It's normally how I do that, and that's what we're going to do once he hooks that wideband up in here. But anyway, so say it was rich in those cells, 4250, or lean in those cells, lean like 13.7, 4250 to 4750. We'd come back in here. This is just a for instance, so 4250 to 4750. All right, we'd highlight those cells, and then we want to add 10% fuel. We'd go 1.1. We'd hit the multiply button. Now it's not going to work because anything times 0 is 0. There would actually need to be numbers in there for that to work, but you hit the multiply button, it'll add 10% in those cells. So that's how you add fuel for the math table. If you wanted to take away fuel, say we want to take away 20%, we'll go 0.8. Say this was reading 12.0, it was fat as, or 11.5 on motor. That's way too fat. Let's take away 20%, for instance. We'd highlight those tables that we needed to drop 20%, 0.8, hit the times button. Boom, there. And that's how you do that. That's how you add fuel and take fuel away. And I forgot if I said this or not, but that's the same way you do it on the map table too. I should have named this one map. Make sure when you open this table, it puts you at the top one. Make sure you click on the one you want to change, but this one should say map. Manifold absolute pressure. But anyway, so if you was speed density, it would be the same way, except for it reads manifold absolute pressure and RPM. So in the tune, you can click on that there to see manifold absolute pressure and then RPM. So, if it was reading fat in these cells, if it was reading fat in these cells and we wanted to lean it out, 10%, same thing. It's coming here. Highlight the tables that it's fat in based on this. And you want to lean it out 10%, 0.9, hit the multiply button. And then I try to smooth these back in when I do that on these. This is vertical, this is horizontal. And then you blend it in vertical, and you can do that over here too. Blend in horizontal. Then you highlight the whole table and hit this smooth selection button. I usually hit it until it quits changing. See how it quit changing, so it smooths it out. I don't know if that's the right way to do that, but that's the way I do it. So, but anyway, since the car was running better, the intake air temperature sensor was reading better with the new SLP lid and the ram air thing, we added 3 degrees, blended it in, blah, blah, blah. It was at 23. So as you can see, the car did go up to 26 degrees as we had in the tune. it actually tickled these, and at that point I didn't think it would go that high, so I didn't change those cells. But anyway, the cells at wide open throttle that he was shifting at and stuff like that was at, you know, at 26 degrees, and at this point we added 15% fuel. How did the car respond?
Oh, it did pick up. Oh!
So you can see there we picked up another 10th, and we picked up about 6 miles per hour. I think the DA was 1620 at this point. What it run? 1236 at 114. It picked up a lot of mile per hour. So we'll calculate that. It was 1225. So now we're at a 12. I think the DA was higher because when I DA'd it out at the track, it said 1212. So that's where we're at now. But look at the mile per hour it picked up. So the next thing we're going to do, like I said, we were at 26 degrees. Most of these cars, fuel injection, LS cars, seem to like around 28. But something also you want to keep in mind when you're adding timing, see this retard one? It comes stock in the tables when you first open the scanner, so you don't have to add it. But make sure it's not getting retard knock and pulling timing. You want to keep an eye on that as you're adding timing. Spark retard sensor, see, which is the knock sensor. Make sure it's not pulling timing. So we ran out of time that night. So the next step is we're going to add 2 more degrees of timing to put it at 28. And something else I also did was we came in here and messed with the shift points. And I want to go over this a little bit too, because and they're usually on this shift timing going trans up here, shift timing, shift scheduling. Now typically it uses both of these tables. Now usually what I do is I try to lower this table to where I know it'll be lower than the mile per hour, be lower than what the RPM is. And you can go online to RPM calculators and it'll give you that information. Just if you're an auto car, you know, this is going to be for an auto car. Keep in mind the converter slips about 10% when you're doing the math in those calculators online. Let's see, RPM gear ratio calculator. See if this is the right one that I usually use. I can't remember. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's this one. My internet's going to be really slow. Alright, so it's this one. So he has a 373 in that car. I believe it's 28-inch tire height. Actually, this ain't the right one. This one works too, but it only works for, I want it by gear. There we go. So 3.73, tire height 28. Again, I'll put this in the description. I'm making a note of stuff I want to put in the description. Alright, so engine RPM 6400. Transmission gear, so you have to go in here and 4L60E gear ratios. So 3.059 is first gear. 3.059. Calculate results. So, and then you have to think 10%. I usually take about 10% off of this. So calculator, 46.74. We're taking 10% away, times 0.9, 42, or I meant to do 10%, 46.74. Actually, I do 10% for the converter slip. I do another 10% just to make sure I'm lower. Whoops, I messed that up. 46.74. We'll do 20%. Times 0.8. Lowers it 20%. So 37 miles an hour. So, and then, what, second gear, 1.625. So we'll put that in first to second. We'd put that mile per hour in there. And then for the second to third, you know, same thing. Gear ratio in second, 1.625. 1.625. Calculate 87.99. 87.99 times 0.8 to take away 10% converter slippage and just 10% buffer. So that'd be 70 miles an hour. We'd put 70 there, and I have these higher, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. And then we're going to do the same thing for third and fourth. But third is 1-to-1. So 142. 142.98 times 0.8 to lower 20%, 10% for converter slippage, and then 10% just because of to make it lower, because that's an and situation. Both of these are supposed to happen. Both of these are supposed to happen before it'll shift. So it's got to hit 40 and it's got to hit 6,400 RPM and it'll shift. But now on his first tune, we had 30 in here. Let's go back to that one. So this is the initial tune we started with. We wanted the car to shift around 6,400 RPM. But check this out. It actually shifted off the speed and it ignored the RPM completely. Here's the scan of that one. This is the one, the first one. Well, no, that ain't the first one. For this one, because it had the high intake air temperatures. Yeah, there it is. But now, look, you'll see it never even hits 6,400 RPM. Here's the gear. Oh, I put the gear in after. Dang it. Let's look at the other one. But anyway, you'll look at mile per hour and you can tell when it shifts. We'll look at the other one. See, it never hit 6,400 RPM. It shifted at 36 mile an hour. Let me look at the other one where I went in there and added. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, see, I added the gear in this little column thing. But here we go. Alright, so we'll play it and watch right here where I've got highlighted blue when that commands second gear. So it should not command it until we're over 36 mile per hour and we're over 6,400 RPM. But watch. Boom, right there when it switched from 35 to 38, and we're only at 6,000 RPM. It commanded second gear right there. And it takes a while to shift. So if you, and it does actually shift at 64, but when it commands shift and when it shifts are two different things. So that's where we wanted it to command the shift at 6,400, and you know, probably shift it, see at 66 or whatever, but it went off of speed instead of both. It's supposed to do both, and usually I lower these and just go by RPM, but this one's going strictly by speed for some reason. But you know, I was touching on when it commands. See, now if I left this same tune in for a nitrous car, where it wraps RPM faster, see, it probably would have actually shifted at probably 68, because where it commands shift and where it shifts are two different things. So this just tells when it commands it. When it shifts is, just based on how quick your transmission responds to the shifts, how much RPM you're wrapping really quickly, and other factors. But, when you put a cam in a car, you do want to change the shift points. Also, when you put a cam in a car and you change the shift points, you want to make sure that you up the rev limiter. So the rev limiter is going to be under fuel and cutoff. See, it's in here. So his is set at 7,000. The in-gear one is the important one, but I set all of these. The cutoff happens at 7,000. It'll resume at 6,950, which will give you that whoop, up, 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 up sound. How's that go again? Whoop, up, up, up. And I do it in this one as well. But put your rev limiters here. Put whatever you put in these on this top line, cut off, and then do like a 50 or 100 RPM less for the resume. And do that on this one too. Bad vehicle speed sensor. Do that here too. So actually, whoever was in here before me got this wrong. The bad VSS, the cutoff, bad VSS part neutral, is your rev limiter, and then the resume, bad VSS, resume, part neutral resume, is the resume for the bad VSS and part neutral. But the in-gear one is correct. That's the important one. But for 7,000 RPM cutoff and 6,950 RPM resume, this is what it should look like. Oh, and some people don't set the part neutral one that high. You can set it like 36 cutoff and then, or 3,500 cutoff and 3,400 resume like I did here, and then park neutral, you can rev it up and it'll actually sound like it's hitting a two-step there. Well, pretty much it is. But anytime you change your shift points, you need to make sure you're not going to hit the rev limiter before it shifts, so you want to make sure you change that too. But anyway, we wound up picking up, I don't know, what, 3-4 tenths just with fixing the intake air temperature issue and doing a little bit of tuning. We just added 3 degrees and probably 10 to 15, I think 15% fuel at that point. But y'all stay tuned. We're going to get the wideband hooked up so we can read it. And the scanner, his is speed density, so we should be able to see it in here. And we're going to try to get this at 12.8. To start with, we'll try 13.0, see if it goes faster. If it don't go faster from 12.8 to 13.0, then we'll try 12.5. If it goes faster, we'll try to go even richer, and we'll see what it likes and see if it goes faster with 2 more degrees. We're going to add 2 more degrees of timing too, and we're going to get the air-fuel ratio dialed in. And y'all stay tuned, and we'll go over that and see what this car runs. But one more thing I wanted to go over. On your shifts on a motor car, this is an 11-second car all day long, the power it's making. It just don't have the right torque converter. On your shifts, you never want to see more than 1,000 RPM drop. So it was almost at 34 or 64 there. And look, dropped 2,000 RPM on the 1.2. The 2.3, 64, 2,000 RPM, 1,900 RPM there. It's like 1,700 and 1,900 RPM. So this converter is way too tight for this car. So he said he's going to do a converter too. Hopefully it loosens it up. It puts the shift points. Ideally, you don't want more than 1,000 RPM drop on the shifts. On motor, on a car that I'm going to race, I usually like between 500 and 700. But yeah, the converter is slowing this car down a lot. Bad. It's dropping way too much RPM and taking it out of the horsepower and torque range. that it needs to be in. But yeah, we'll do some more tuning on this. Hopefully he'll change the torque converter to something a little bit looser, and we'll get this thing to run 11s. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.